should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I do this? Should I not do this? That's why I said that there's a distinct lack of clarity when it comes to misalignment. You have to make a decision and you have to be radical about it, because 9 times out of 10, going from misalignment to flow to peace, it takes a lot. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have you here again. This is Victoria's Reveries, a space where we talk about self-care, healing, and living our best freaking lives.
The beautiful dream of being able to manifest our dream lives.
In this fantastic episode of the Cozy Calendar, the second episode of the Cozy Calendar, thank you God for yet another opportunity to be here and to be able to create these beautiful stories and to share them with you. But in this episode of the Cozy Calendar, we'll be talking about, what you're seeing in the thumbnail and the title, which is how I went from misalignment to I have to say that again. How I went from misalignment to misalignment. She got her own thing. Love her. Misalignment. If only that would, if the syllables would match up to actually rhyming the song, that'd be I'd feel really good about that moment for the rest of the week. But anyway, before we proceed with our conversation for today, I would like for you to get your drink, as you should. And my drink for today is a caramel latte. It's okay. It's nice. I just wish this latte was a bit stronger on the coffee. But someone recently told me that they think I'm a bit of an addict, so I'm having this watered down version excuses for coffee. All for my health. Without any further ado, let's talk about it. How I went from misalignment to misalignment. I think it's very important for us to define what alignment is. In my opinion, from the top of my head, what I think of when I think of alignment is I think of a state of flow. I think of it from the perspective of everything falling into place. And don't confuse that with perfection. I mean it in the sense of when you are in a space where everything feels like it's at peace, you're at peace, everything has flow, there's a sense of ease in your life, you are comfortable with where you are. Even if you may have aspirations for more, you're comfortable with where you are able to direct your life in a place that's good for you. I would say that that's what alignment is all about. Alignment is basically what I would describe as a state of feeling like everything is right. Everything is just right. You know how they say that when you find the one, when you know, and it's kind of like the same thing when you're in alignment. You just know you're in alignment. Everything just feels right. Everything about this new friend feels right. Everything about this new work opportunity feels right. Everything about a new path in your life feels right. And because you are in alignment, it tends to bring everything into your life, into this structure of flow. When you are in misalignment, I will talk about 3 distinct signs and symptoms shortly. But when you are in misalignment, everything feels like it's just mumble jumbled and you feel like you can't really breathe. Yep. As I was saying, when you're in a state of misalignment, it's the complete opposite. It feels like everything in your life is either leading you into confusion, leading you into questioning yourself. There is an abundance of a sense of lack of clarity, and that's where the difference comes about. When you're in alignment, you might not know what the future holds, but everything feels right. Somewhere deep down, you just know you're on the right path. Whereas when you're in misalignment, you just feel like everything is confused, not worthwhile, you lack motivation, you might have even some signs of depression, depending on how deep your misalignment is and in what area of your life. And that's just the working definition that I want to use for the rest of this video. 3 signs of misalignment, if you asked me, I would say the first is you feel like you are stuck in a rut. You feel like things are just not flowing. You feel like there's a distinct lack of inspiration in your life. That juice for living life, that lust for life is gone. And it could just be because you are not living your life where you should be. Maybe you should move to a different city, or maybe you should move to a whole different neighborhood, or maybe it's not a physical thing. Maybe it's not about a place. Maybe it's about the people that you are consistently surrounding yourselves with. And maybe it's not even about people. Maybe it's about your job. Maybe it's about where you dedicate most of your time that you feel isn't fulfilling enough for you, and therefore you feel like you have a distinct sense of misalignment. That's the first thing. The second sign is that when you are battling misalignment, in my experience, there tends to be this feeling of it's your voice versus somebody else's voice. If you're really young, maybe coming up in the world, trying to find your place in this world, trying to find your sense of identity, it could be your voice versus your parents' voice. It could be your voice versus your employer's voice. It could be so many things. And when it comes to this battle of your voice versus someone else's, this tends to be at the stage where you have started to accept that there is a problem, and you can distinctly see that there's factions to this story. And in this sense, it's like there's a kind of bargaining that's happening back and forth in your mind. Should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I do this? Should I not do this? That's why I said that there's a distinct lack of clarity when it comes to misalignment. There's just a lack of being able to narrow down on something and say, yes, this is the one for me. And usually that is out of fear. Your inner survival instincts want you to cower and want you to be safe, because that's how they think they're going to keep you alive. But sometimes being in misalignment looks like knowing that, but also believing deep down that there's something more. That's where the battle comes in. And the last sign and symptom of misalignment, in my experience, has been feeling lost or feeling terror. Now, it's as if these signs and symptoms that I've rolled out to you are in the progression of how it starts. First, you're stuck in a rut, then you're bargaining, and then there's that ultimate terror. And when it comes to the terror feeling, I think it comes as the third stage, or as one of the later stages of misalignment, because we start to think, oh my God, how have I done XYZ? How have I done ABC? How am I still living my life like this? What have I done? I've messed up. There's no going back. And there's still a sense of bargaining there, whether or not you have a second chance, whether or not it's too late. But what's for sure is that you are not in the right place. And that's how misalignment feels. Next, I want to share with you my experience of misalignment in a very specific area of my life that I had plowed my blood, sweat, tears, and energy into for about 6 years before I decided to opt out. In my story, I was 18. That's when my story started. I needed to figure out what the hell I should do with the rest of my life. And I was academically gifted, and I was qualified to go to a law school. So I studied law because I didn't want to study medicine, because if you're smart you have to do one or the other, or engineering. I'm so glad that the kids of today don't have to go through that, to go through such a distinct measure of your worth based off of your intelligence. And it's not really intelligence, it's just one type of intelligence, which is being book smart. But I was book smart, and therefore I had to decide on a career that was good for me and that was suitable for me. I just have to put this out there that everybody involved in this story was doing their best in helping guide me, because this is where we had reached as a country or as a civilization up till this point, that you work hard, you go to school, and you create for yourself a professional life that is going to be fulfilling, and you're going to enjoy, and it's going to pay you well. You're going to rise through the ranks as time goes by, a very linear kind of life. But that very linear trajectory was it was cut off in various instances, including when I graduated in the pandemic, and instead of people giving jobs, people were actually retracting jobs. People are getting laid off. And if you didn't graduate in that period, it might be very easy to say that that's an excuse. It's a very pivotal moment, because you start to think about things in the sense of this person who's been doing this for 7 8 years just got laid off, and I just got released into this ruthless job market. Is it really worth it? And I think that is it really worth it is a moment that not many people within different generations had a chance to experience, live through, and actually come to grips with, and in a very real sense, grapple with. Not many people had the chance to actually say that, because for them they'd be in internships 2 years, 3 months later, completely absorbed. I've done internship after internship after internship, to the point last year, I think it was around April, I told God, look, I'm done. Like, I'm done. I'm not doing another internship. I'm not. And I think God took my prayer seriously, because the next job I did wasn't an internship. It still wasn't completely in alignment, but it was not an internship. But I was saying that I came to graduate at a time where things had to be very much deeply evaluated, and a lot of things started to look like they weren't worthwhile. But that wasn't the first time I started to think that maybe this law degree wasn't really the thing for me. The first time came in 2019, I believe. It was 3 years into my degree. I'd been performing exceptionally well in law school. I guess I just like studying new things, but with more time and with more self-awareness, I've learned that I don't have to completely divide myself into creative or book smart, that there is such a thing as someone who's a polymath, which I believe I am, someone who can have different interests and someone who can have different talents at different things in different stages of their lives. And this is not the same as, let's say, someone like a Lynn. If you watched Girlfriends, you know, Lynn was forever like jumping job to job, new venture into new venture, without having a sense of finality or having a sense of direction. It's not the same thing. But as I was saying, in 2019, I worked my first job, my first practical experience in the work in my field, my then field, the legal profession, and I got served more than just a cup of coffee in those offices. I got served a heavy dish of reality. I was like, whoa, this was meant to be fun.
Let's stay playful together.
I thought this thing looked like suits. I was expecting to wear like business dresses and look hot and walk around in my tall ass high heels. I was wearing flats in the office. Granted, that was a me problem, but everything was so radically different than what I had imagined from the movies, what I had imagined from popular media. And look, the aesthetics were the least of my problems at that time. I started to realize, wow, I actually hate this. I actually don't like this at all. I actually don't want to be like her in the next 5 years, who's leaving this office at 2 a.m. But I was very shy about voicing these thoughts with anyone other than my peers, because I knew for a lot of people, I don't know the kind of household you've come from, but I did not want to be deemed as ungrateful. One, because anything out of the norm is already questioned, and now secondly, I didn't want to be deemed as ungrateful, because a lot of heart and soul and hopes and financial investment had been invested in me, and I wanted to cherish that, and I wanted to be grateful for it. With time, I have learned that I can cherish those things while still making a different decision. But at that time, I still had a very binary way of looking at things, which, if you haven't watched my binary alignment, if you haven't watched my binary thinking video, I would love for you to check it out. Anyway, I didn't want to be known as ungrateful, and therefore I just compared notes with my peers. So what went on in the law firm you went to, what went on in the law firm you went to, and it was just the same story in different and with different characters through and through. But I didn't want to just make that drastic decision. At least I thought then it was drastic. This was slightly after the third year, meaning we were going into the fourth year of uni, which was the last year. So I thought, of course, I must finish my degree. For me, let me just put this out there, for me it was never a matter of whether or not I should finish my degree. You know, like for, let's say, an artist who's coming up and they have this huge record deal with them, they can opt out of school education, or for someone who's found something so huge and revolutionary financially speaking, they can opt out of a college education. But what was I gonna opt into? I really didn't know then. And so for me, it was never like, I say this in like the under quotes and the I put a heavy undertone of African household when I say it was never an option for me not to finish my 4th year, and nor was it something that I personally desired. I wanted to finish school, and I wanted to graduate with a first-class degree because somehow I thought it would erase the feeling of failure I had when I didn't get an A, like a straight A with my high school education, yeah, which actually quite dented my self-worth. Guys, I especially enjoyed it when someone around me told me that they knew that I would quote unquote fail with my B plus, and they got such a huge kick off of telling me this, especially in the middle of a random argument to do with something entirely different, them being aware of how vulnerable I felt about how I had performed, which they actually performed lower, so like who's calling who what? Was such a hugely emphasized grade. When I look back, I'm just like, wow. I actually always tell my small sister, you are one lucky that you didn't get to do 844. It is the ghetto. It is the ghetto. Anyway, my misalignment story now led me into thinking, wow, now this is my 3rd year. I'm thinking this might actually not work, but let me finish school. I'll figure things out from then on. In between, I have to admit that in addition to just being tired because you're in your last year of uni and everything just tiring, I think it did dent my motivation for the profession because I kept thinking to myself, does it matter how hard I work in school if I don't even feel like going to those offices and working in that hectic, indignifying almost in some situations in those circumstances? One thing I do have to point out, for instance, that for me was just like a complete lifestyle misalignment thing for me when it came to the profession was I just couldn't believe that in this amazing state-of-the-art law firm with amazing staff, highly well recruited and vetted, great professionals, and this huge law firm which has even given us a free gym access, why is the intern the only person who can actually go to the gym? I think it's a conversation of work-life balance that needs to be had, and I really do pray that the people I left behind in that law firm had better circumstances and things got better for them, but people were leaving the office at like 2 a.m. and it was casual, nothing special there. And I think even more than that, I noticed a very distinct deadness in everyone's eyes. Now that's the one. I don't even mind getting my hands dirty with hard work. That's never been a problem for me. But I saw that this is completely not my thing when everyone is so cold, everyone is so mean. It's actually something a friend of mine and I have discussed while working at another law firm, which we worked in the vicinity of several law firms and we were just making observations about different lawyers and how different lawyers act. And for a lot of the female lawyers, there's a very distinct type of cattiness and bitchiness that she always talks about when we're talking about that. But everyone was dead in the eyes and I just didn't feel like this was for me. But we moved along, and now I think at this stage I started to feel like that sense of bargaining of, but I went to school and money has been poured and I want to be a good child and I don't want to be ungrateful, but I completely hate this. Like, come on, what the hell is even going on here? This is not fun. This is soul draining. These people are being treated horribly. And at least in that law firm, they were getting paid. In other situations, people aren't even getting paid, or they're getting paid such little money that it's even ridiculous. So anyway, I graduated in the pandemic with a first-class degree. I was very proud of myself, but it kind of reminded me of that show Revenge Bodies by Khloe Kardashian, where they would get into the situation, into the show, trying to seek revenge through a makeover against an ex, against parents who said that you'd be a failure and amount to nothing, just a fat piece of junk, So that was the show. But in the end, they always came out looking and feeling 10 times more confident, looking amazing, having lost weight, but even more than just the weight, having regained a sense of purpose in how they want to look. And in the end, they would always say, I came here because of my ex to prove a point, but I left here having proven a point to myself, and I realized that's the only point I need to prove. And for me, it was a similar situation. I went into uni wanting to prove a point by getting a first class degree, but then by the time I left uni, I was so radically transformed from the inside out. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. In fact, I just used to want to do it just as a show for myself, of me being able to be dedicated for a long period of time, for me being able to be consistent for a long period of time. So graduated and got into my first job and my second job and my third job and my fourth job, and I realized at some point, God, are you saying something to me? Because it seems that every job I have the same boss with a different name. I have the same boss, the same narcissistic tendencies, the same lack of compassion, the same indignity. I have the same boss with a different name. Is this a sign from the universe? Now, I understand that things are not completely monolithic for everybody. So then again, I'd compare notes. Hey, how's it going at your place of work? It's going ABCD, ABCD. Wow, I'm actually really glad to hear that you're thriving. And how's it going for you, Victoria? Well, it's hard to tell because the office is always in a weird mood. Everyone's consistently intimidated at work. I'm doing my job great, that's not a problem, but I'm really questioning a lot. So that became the train of thought for now the last, I believe, 3 years. And I just got to a point where I had to make a decision. And that's the thing about misalignment that I will share with you, how to cure misalignment when I come to the end of this story. You have to make a decision and you have to be radical about it, because 9 times out of 10, going from misalignment to flow to peace, it takes a lot. Now, I'd come to the stage of my life, my spiritual journey, my faith, where I was asking for direction and I was asking for clarity regarding what I should be doing, what I want to do, what I feel like doing. And yes, you do have the permission to want to do things in your own life. Can you imagine that? It's sad what society has made us be. We all are bots. We want to operate the exact same way. We want to do the same thing. Is that an agenda? The bot agenda? Okay, before we generate a conspiracy theory, let me finish the story. I got to the point where I realized I had to make a decision and I was asking God for clarity. And if you've watched my recent TikToks, you know that there's this one I was saying that there's a very distinct thing that happens when we refuse to take the signs of the universe. There's a very distinct rejection that tends to happen. There's a distinct pain that tends to happen so that it can separate you from the version of you that was bargaining to one that is completely sure. And it usually comes from intense heartbreak. But in my situation, because I was already willing, I should mention this. I was at a stage of my life where I was tired of being in misalignment to the point where I was willing to do anything to get out. I was tired of feeling miserable. I was tired of always being tired, even when it came to my own ventures and the things that actually make me happy. Because one of the arguments about like not enjoying your professional life is that you're informed that, you know, have hobbies on the side. My hobby, one of them was YouTube. I didn't even have enough time for that because I'm waking up at 4:30. I'm coming back home at around 6. All I can do is work out, eat, sleep, and repeat when I can work out. And even so, I understand that this might be seen as sacrifices for the temporary period before a huge thing happens. And unfortunately, I wasn't seeing this breakthrough. I wasn't sensing this breakthrough happening in my life, which granted, you might say I was just short-sighted, but that's not your life to make decisions for, it's mine. So I'd gotten to that point where I couldn't even make time for things. And So in my own life, an event occurred that was completely not generated by me, but I accepted and I made a decision, and the decision for me brought me into alignment, brought me into peace, brought me into self-understanding, brought me into being able to fully put in my time and my efforts into my ventures, the purpose that I have in this earth, on this earth. It brought me closer to that, and I felt so fulfilled since then. In fact, one of the most distinct feelings I remember after making this decision, or rather after that event occurring, was that I remember thinking, dang, God, I've actually been praying about this. Isn't it crazy that it would happen this way? And it would happen in the way that I wasn't the one who started anything. In fact, I was okay. Something happened, and it's almost as if I was now being pushed out. It's almost as if the if I was to analogize this, now I was on a crooked road, and then now the road wanted to narrow and make itself so aligned that it pushed me into a whole aligned road. I had to do nothing. All I did was pray, seek guidance, and see the sign when it came, and accept things for what they were, and moved ahead. And it's been so great. First thing I realized after making that decision and after the event happening was that I felt like, wow, it's so great to not have anxiety in the morning. It's amazing. You mean I don't have anxiety? I don't have to wonder who's about to call my phone. I don't have to rush into the washroom with my phone sometimes in my pocket because I'm so scared I'll get called. Because if I don't answer that call, it's going to be horrible for the rest of my week or month. You mean I don't have to do that? You mean I was normalizing what is actually quite indignifying? Wow. And ever since then, everybody just keeps commenting, you look so happy, you are glowing, what happened? And I am still in a stage of my life where I'm laying the foundation of many things, but I'm also in a stage of my life where I get to reap the benefits of already starting to lay the foundation of so many things, like expanding my knowledge in my finances and seeking options and alternatives like this channel that can end up being even more fulfilling than any professional career would have been for me. Because maybe it's your thing to be an amazing doctor, but not everybody was born to be a professional. Let's just make that clear. I am not saying that the professional journey or route is for nobody. I'm just saying it's not for me at this point. Things may change. I might see a new opportunity that shows me that I could actually be fulfilled. Actually, God keeps slapping my face every time I start thinking of those things. Like, it'll be things like you've applied for a job and you've interviewed and everything is going great, and then I just ask God, okay, God, if this is the path for me, straighten things, and if it's not, shut it down. It shuts down. So yeah, I'm not even gonna say that part of my prayer, but my story was just to let you know how it feels when you're in alignment and how it feels when you're in misalignment, and how to be misalignment. I don't know why I keep doing this, it's just fun. Before we finish with the video, I remember giving you signs and symptoms of misalignment. Now I want to give you signs of alignment and leave you with a few nuggets of wisdom that might encourage you in your own journey. One of the solutions for finding alignment is that you have to listen to yourself. The reason why we call it alignment is because it's aligned to something, or rather in this case it's aligned to someone, and the someone is you. You have to listen to yourself. What Betty is doing, what James is doing, what anyone else is doing is for them, and you have to see whether it is a good, valid, effective solution for you. And you have to look deep within and you have to listen to yourself. That's the first thing. The second thing is that when you listen to yourself, you have to trust what you hear, even if it is an inconvenient truth. Even if, let's say in my case, you had spent 6 years of your life, blood, sweat and tears and hopes, and had only one truth in your life as to what you wanted to do, it could be a very inconvenient truth that you hear, but you have to trust and listen to what you hear. Do you want the pain of stagnation or do you want the pain of growth? That's why you need to listen to what you hear. The third thing is that you have to forgive yourself. Okay, I don't know why I just got the sudden urge to just like give myself a solo hug. You have to forgive yourself for, in my case, the blood, sweat, and tears that I spent in law school and after law school and my jobs and thinking of ways to become this great, amazing lawyer. Even when I started to see that, oh man, this looks like it's not for me. I have come to the place where I can talk to you today because I've forgiven myself for anything I did that wasn't right, that wasn't in alignment with my true path, or my true path as I see it today, for anything that I did not do or I failed to do, for any knowledge I failed to seek. There's things I learn about, like where I'm investing my skills, and I'm like, if I learned this 6 years ago, if I poured the blood, sweat, and tears I poured in law school into this, I'd be a billionaire. I'd be a billionaire. I don't want to be a mechanic, I want to be a baller. That's what I'd be thinking. And it did take a lot of regret at first, which I've come to accept is a normal part of life. Sometimes you regret small things like what you share with people. Sometimes it's big things like life decisions on what you will do with your life. But I've come to terms with it. I've come to a place of acceptance, which, if you know, that's the last stage of healing. I've come to a place of acceptance of the misalignment that was in my life. I give myself compassion and I offer myself gentleness, that I did the best of what I did, the best in my time with what I knew, because that was my best, and that was the best I did, and therefore I deserve some grace. That's one. Secondly, I recognize that I'm a person who has a very strong heart. I do not look like the things I have been through, and I'm so grateful to God for that. But as strong as I am, I'm also very soft. But that's not the point. The point is that I believe that certain things happen to certain people because they can handle them. And I don't like to vouch myself as a person who can handle things. I will not lift a bottle if there's a man around. I'm just not the girl. I'm just not that girl. But I recognize that there's a certain strength in my heart where I can be trusted with having to pivot so many times in my life because I have that skill. It's readily available for me because I've chosen to exercise it several times, and I just have, it's in my DNA. I just can, and it's just gonna be great. It's always great. Even when I think that things are gonna tumble down, then a sudden miracle happens and then things just go great. And I encourage, I know that most people are followers, and that's okay. It's okay to follow. I won't even shame you for what comes naturally to you and what makes you you. But I also want to encourage those of us that know that they aren't followers, that they aren't conformers, that they aren't comfortable with the status quo, that they keep thinking of these amazing ideas, they have amazing interests countless times, that they have things and work to do. If that's you, lean into that. I encourage you. It's always gonna be great. That's the only option. I don't know if that's just because it's my assumption. Maybe I should do a video on the law of assumption. But anyway, it's just my assumption that things will be great. When you look at me here today, I'm not pretending. I'm truly happy. I was happy to put my makeup on. I was happy to sit down and be here. I'm happy with my nice coffee that's watered down, but it's still nice. It's a caramel latte anyway, and I love caramel. But I'm happy, and I want that to be an encouragement for you, that if you have a daunting decision that you need to make, that you lean into that. And that is the end of my story. Thank you so much for coming to the end of this video. As usual, make sure to like, subscribe, share if you care with anyone and everyone that you like and care enough about. This video was just a little quick story time. A little quick story time to share with you that in a world where we have a multiverse of options, don't be afraid to make a tiny little decision or a big little decision. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being in this community, and I appreciate you taking your time. Kisses. Bye bye. Till next time. Take care.